Hey guys, this is your vodcast for Tuesday. We're going to be looking at chapter 23, the course and the conduct of World War I, and really how did this war of World War I differ from any earlier war that we had to fight. And you're going to see a lot of pictures and evidence of how this war changed the way we fought internationally. So first off, the Selective Service Act, though, was our army. This set up in 1917, and it had to draft men of the ages of 21 to 30, and it drafted roughly just under 3 million people, and 24 million men registered for it. And this was a campaign set up by the government to encourage men to enlist. And the American Expeditionary Force, the AEF, was the first American fighters that we had ever had to send to Europe to fight a war. Everything prior to this was done in our own country. We never had to fight a war outside of our own borders. The Civil War, the Revolutionary War, the Mexican-American War, all that was all done in the United States. We never had to go to a foreign nation. This was the first time we ever had to do that. There were a lot of African Americans that brought themselves into the war, and they were still segregated. They brought in limited training for them. For black officers, they weren't going to get really high up in the military at the time, but the first black soldiers were to arrive in Europe. With those were the 369th Regiment. And they quickly built a reputation of being excellent soldiers and were nicknamed Hellfighters by the German army. This regiment was the first Allied regiment to break through the German lines to reach the Rhine, the river, and during 191 days of fighting, the regiment did not have a man captured. They didn't lose an inch of ground by retreating. They were very, very good soldiers. They did not want to give in. They fought and they fought and they fought. There was also a ton of new technologies that came about in the war. And during the Civil War, we lined up in one big long line and fought that way, walking from field to field, fighting the person across from us. Now we decided to dig a hole, dig a trench, and you're going to see a lot of these new tactics. Oops.
The following students.
With the creation of trench warfare, there was a lot of new ammunition and artillery that we could use. The machine gun and these howitzers, which were called Big Berthas. And actually, Callaway Golf, their golf clubs, Big Berthas, were named after these weapons because the owner of Callaway was a huge World War I fan. So you'll see some pictures of here in a second. These are the Big Bertha cannons. These were very large, very heavy, very hard to move. Once it was in one place, you weren't going to move it by hand. Machine gun, this would fire about 600 bullets per minute. Again, upwards to 100 pounds they would weigh at the time, and take 2 or 3 men to carry these. Airplanes and Zeppelins became very important. Obviously, the airplane kind of revolutionized the way we could attack the trenches, and the Zeppelin allowed for travel, also allowed for more communication as well. Battleships and U-boats also became very important to the United States. It allowed us to get through the Atlantic a little easier, allowed us to destroy submarines, German U-boats if need be. We could send torpedoes and destroy them. Here's some more pictures of those. This is the Lusitania, and we're going to talk about that. The tank looks nothing like a tank that you would see today. The treads on them, if you can see, went all the way up and around, both of them. These were very heavy. If they got broke or destroyed, they were pretty much immovable at the time. The flamethrower, very cool artillery that used to fire out bombs, weapons of mass destruction, across the trenches to the other side to burn anything that would be needed. They used a lot of pressurized air and carbon dioxide or nitrogen to belch forth a stream of boiling oil for as much as 18 meters. Think of 18 meters as about 20 yards or so, maybe 25 yards. Poisonous gases, mustard gas, chlorine, anything that they could use. This would attack you, and shut down your lungs. It wouldn't kill you per se right away, but it could do damage over the course of time. And then trench warfare. Obviously, you can see here these guys living in a trench about 8 feet deep, 10 feet deep, and trenches were all throughout Europe of how we were going to fight this. And if water filled the trench, you were going to get trench foot. And I can show some pictures here at the end of this PowerPoint today. But there were a lot of key events before then, U.S. involvement. There was a lot of battles that took place between Great Britain, Germany, Austria-Hungary. There were upwards of 60,000 casualties a day. Tons of men just being slaughtered on a daily basis. And a lot of success was measured in inches and feet. We were not gaining miles of land per day. We were gaining trench by trench per day. And there was a huge stalemate. There was nothing, no side was ahead, no side was really behind. The Russian Revolution, the very small part of this chapter. Vladimir Lenin and the Bolsheviks assumed power and signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, and they had peace with Germany in March 1918. This really freed Germany from a two-front war, so now Germany could focus everything on the Western Front. Here's a map, the two-front war that they had to fight. Germany was fighting over here against the Russians. Russia and Germany became friends. No more fighting over here, and now we had to fight. Germany just had to fight the Allies right here in northern Paris, northern France, and Belgium region. So, for the United States to get involved in this, there was a lot of issues. All sides were planning the offensive. The German offensive is stalled by mid-spring, and this control of the seas by Britain and the U.S. depletes any German resources. The United States was no longer shipping anything to Germany. We were only helping out the Allies. And the first American offensive began in May 1918, and American forces joined the French and the British for the Second Battle of Marne by the summer of 1918. So by 1918, we were fully involved in the war. It took a good 6 months for us to get over there and get everything supplied, but it took us a good year or so, and by 1918 we were fighting. In 1 week, 1 million American soldiers participated in the Meuse-Aragon offensive in September 1918. It lasted for 6 weeks. And this was to push back the Germans to their last defensive position. We had to capture control of the railroad going through Europe, and the supplies were more than half of the materials of the German front. And you can see some pictures of that on page 300. And this finally convinces Germany to agree to a truce. And the fighting ended in the fall of 1918. November 11th at 11 a.m. is Armistice Day, which now we call Veterans Day. And that's the reason why we celebrate Veterans Day. It was the ending of World War I. In this, there were 10 million soldiers that were killed, 20 million that were wounded, 10 million civilian deaths, only 110,000 American deaths, though. And this was estimated to be $185 billion worth of destruction during the war. So that's it for tonight. I can show you guys some pictures of trench foot tomorrow and what other things the trenches look like, but I want to end it here because it's getting a little long tonight, about 9 minutes now. So make sure you answer the 3 questions on the Moodle, and you'll be good to go. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.